Ever wonder what makes really creative people tick? Where do their ideas come from? What keeps them energized? What kinds of things get in their way? Is their life really as much fun as it looks from the outside? Hello, I'm your host, Lily Pierpont, and this is ArtStorming, a podcast about how new ideas come to life and become paintings, sculptures, plays, or poems, performances, or collections. Each episode, I'll chat with a guest from the arts community and explore how the most creative among us stare down a blank canvas or reach into the void and create something new. One of the big summer festivals here in Santa Fe, which draws people from all over the world, is Indian Market. The Southwestern Association for Indian Arts, also known as SWAIA, has been happening for over 100 years now. I took advantage of this year's market to make contact with a few native artists whom I've been hoping to get on this podcast. As a result, today I get to ArtStorm with Marla Allison, a grounded, articulate shooting star from Laguna Pueblo. I met Marla at an opening in Santa Fe many years ago before COVID, but I reintroduced myself to her in her booth and asked her if she'd like to do the show. I didn't realize that she was now living in California and was only here for the market. So with no studio of her own, I was thrilled that she agreed to come to my house and have our conversation here. So here is the delight that is Marla Allison. Okay, so I am here with Marla Allison. I tracked down Marla at Indian Market this year because I wanted you to be on the podcast, and I did not know that you had moved to California.
Yes.
So even though you are a Santa Fe native and
Yes.
you are absolutely belong to this conversation about City Different, you're not living here. So let's start with, just tell me a little bit about where you are set up, but tell me what your new situation is,
Sure.
where you're living, what you're doing. And then I thought it'd be fun for us to pick a card and use that as the next part of our conversation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I moved to Northern California, the town of Healdsburg, almost 2 years ago. And I got a studio in Santa Rosa, maybe 8 months after I moved there. So this is the first time I have a studio outside of my house, other than for a fellowship. And it's changed my life, as well as the move. I lived in Laguna for most of my life, and Santa Fe, I was kind of back and forth. I was married for a while to the jeweler Pat Pruitt and went through a divorce in 2017 after I returned from an artist residency in Saudi Arabia. And once I got home, I realized it was time.
Yeah.
And so I lived in Santa Fe for a while. I've shown all throughout a number of galleries, and now living in Healdsburg, diving into some new artwork and debuting it for the Santa Fe Indian Market has that's kind of current. We can dive into any of those markers along the way if you like.
Right. Well, for our listeners who don't know about Indian Market, just give us a tiny little bit of context about what that is. It happens annually this time of year.
Yes, this is the 102nd Santa Fe Indian Market. Technically, it's the 103rd, but during COVID time, they weren't able to have it. The interesting part is that I was living here in town. My friend, Cody Sanderson, who's a jeweler, pretty well known throughout the world, came up to me, and he was one of my pod people. He said, hey, what do you think about the Santa Fe Indian Market? And I told him, there's still people in town. We're still artists. I know the owner of La Fonda. How about we work together and figure this out? And he's like, yeah, let's do our own show. And so we both thought, hell yeah, why not? I mean, we know all the great artists. We can invite a few people who we'll get along with, we'll be safe with. We'll wear masks. We'll call it the mask market.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know that happened. And I was here in lockdown with everybody else.
Not many people did. We actually had maybe a whole total of 10 to 15 people actually come to it. But we had 5 artists. It was Cody Sanderson, myself, Cara Romero, let's see, Autumn Boards Medlock, George Rivera, and another artist. He's going to kill me for missing his name. He's a Spanish artist that's here in town. It'll come to me. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting right now. But it was a few of us that we kind of put all our work together. And Olin Sinigini, let's see. I don't know. It was very few of us. And we put on the show in the front lobby of the La Fonda because the restaurant and bar had to be closed.
Right.
So to use the space.
Perfect space for it.
Yeah. We
were out of the heat, which this year was really unbearable. This was the hottest Indian market I remember.
This year was crazy. So in total, there's usually around 1,000 artists. It's all competition. You have to be juried in. This has been my 16th year of being a part of this show. I feel very fortunate. 2008, it was my first year, I won the inaugural Innovation Award. And it was a great jumpstart into being a part of this art market. And ever since then, I've won quite a few awards. This year, I won 2nd place in the Boundaries category, which was kind of painting, kind of sculpture, mixed media, unknowns area for this piece called Child Games, number 4 that I did. And I got a honorable mention, 2nd award, honorable mention in the painting category for an abstract. That just validates all this hard work that I've been trying to figure out with abstract work.
Well, what I really love about Indian market is that you can see everything from traditional crafts that have been, practiced for hundreds of years, literally, all the way up to really contemporary interpretations of those same crafts, and then on to painting and sculpture and things that one wouldn't typically think of as native art at all. So when you first got started, did you start as a painter? What materials were you working with?
Yes, I've always been a painter from everything that I've entered. I have done a variety of artwork throughout trying to figure out what I was going to be. I've done ceramic, glass work, video installation. I started with 3D design, sculpture when I was in art school.
And where was art school for you?
Oh, I went to school here in Santa Fe at the Institute of American Indian Arts. I graduated in 2000 with my associate's degree in 3-dimensional arts. I guess, it's kind of through a mix of traveling and figuring things out, 8 years of construction work with my father and brothers, all kind of brought me in a roundabout way to finally entering into these art shows and able to continue through it.
So were there any other people in your lineage that are artists?
Kind of. My great-grandfather on my mother's side, Tony Toya, he was a painter, but he mostly did it for hobby. He was really good, but he didn't do art shows. He did it because he loved it. And his son, my mom's father, Will Toya, he did some artwork as well, but it was more a lot of traditional work, painting drums, painting Gatsuna dancers, some Hopi dancers, I'd say mostly traditional things that were rattles or ceremonial purpose items. And whenever this little person that was wanting to do artwork, when I came around and finished high school, I told them that I was wanting to be an artist, and they were so encouraging.
That's so
great. Maybe I was doing something that they wanted me to do, and they could see my talent. So thanks to their encouragement, I felt like, this is the right path.
And did you know other kids your age who were pursuing that path? I mean, what gave you the idea that that was even an option?
Well, I had a really bad music teacher. I wanted to be a trumpet player, which I thought I was pretty good, but I don't think I really was. And my art teacher was highly encouraging. My music teacher would yell at me for cussing whenever it wasn't even me. Although I did cuss a lot, but most of the time it was the other trumpeter that had the potty mouth. And even with a male voice that would be screaming out profanities, right, she would yell at me, and I thought, hey, that wasn't even my fault.
Well, she was probably just sort of behind the scenes, just moving you towards being a painter instead of a musician.
That's true. No, but I had this incredible art teacher, two of them actually. Lawrence Sennett, he taught me oil painting by way of Bob Ross videos.
Oh, no way.
It was amazing.
Are you serious?
He would play them on this big television with a VCR. He would wheel it out from the back room. We'd watch maybe 5 minutes of it, and it would take us an hour to get all that onto a canvas. And then the next class, we would do another 5 minutes, and after the course of a few weeks, we would actually have a landscape and thorough understanding of how to use brushes, how to use oils, how to manipulate the paint and blend them. And it was a slow process, but eventually we indulged and really became good at landscapes. And in the way of learning that, he noticed that I had a keen talent on figuring things out. I've always been pretty quick at seeing how it's done and then understanding and being able to do it myself. And so he quickly encouraged me. I was kind of bumped up into the senior level when I was in 9th grade. And so he saw promise, which I just dove right in, and I loved it. Everything about it was natural and
right, amazing. And oils that's a complex place to dive in because the material itself is just so. I mean, in some ways, it's really forgiving because you can, blend it really easily. But in the other, it can turn to mud really fast.
That's very true. Yeah, thanks to his instruction, he took us all through the process very clearly, and having other students that were in the same learning time as myself, we were all learning techniques at the same time. So if you look around, you see, oh, how are you using that brush? Or how are you mixing that color? And, as we're all learning, we're all watching each other in the same time and could see how to do it properly and what was working and what wasn't working. So
that is so great. And so did Bob Ross work with a palette knife too? Did you learn palette knife techniques as well as paintbrush, or mostly
kind
brush?
Of? I would say a slight touch because of maybe using it for the tree.
The trunk of a tree or something linear.
Yeah, but I think he also used a fine brush as well that he would go through. And thankfully, the painting teacher had all the proper brushes that were to match with what was needed. So,
because that's a journey. That's an exploration in and of itself. It's just deciding what material, tools to use and how to use them, and what you want to continue using and what you want to jettison and pick up on your own. So when did you go from kind of mimicking Bob Ross to inventing your own style started to emerge and like your own voice?
That was not quick or easy. I think in this class that I had with Charlene Teeters, I was doing figure drawing. And all throughout, I would do every proper technique as instructed. I loved it. I loved learning the process. I loved trying to get everything right and in the right proportion and position and composition and darkness. I was a sponge. I took in everything that the teachers were teaching me. But in Charlene Teeters' class, There was a model that was in there. She had her legs over a couch, and I had this position in class with my easel where either maybe I was the only one that noticed, maybe everybody just worked with it, but it seemed like she couldn't get her legs in a comfortable position, and she kept moving them. And I was really getting frustrated because I thought, I have to erase this, and then I have to mark this, and my markings were right, but then they weren't, and I'd look up and they'd be in another spot, and I thought, oh my God, I was getting so frustrated. I was just maybe a prima donna at the moment, It wasn't very often. Usually,
for somebody who's trying to get it right, that's that can be a conversation in your head, right?
Yeah, it's true. So in the same process, I kind of jokingly, I stitched her leg to the chair. And so in the drawing, it looked like her leg was stick, so it would stay, and I was just, that little pivotal moment showed me that, this is my reality. This is my world that's on this canvas, that's on this paper. This is what I can make. And so there was a little switch that hit.
Yeah.
That was that pivoting time of, this is me. And whatever they're doing, that is no longer a tether. That is something that can be connected, but let me just throw my own webbing out there and find what sticks and start adding that in. And once I realized, I can adjust this line to be a little more interesting, and this knee can be a little more pointy. So in my head, it looks right. It looks proper. It looks fun and interesting and creative. And once I was able to do that, then I was able to explore further and explore a variety of ways instead of just, I think in that class I was doing charcoal drawing. And it started adapting to a lot of other things. My sculpture class, I was able to kind of use an influence of figurative, but also cubist influence. And knowing how Picasso does his style of work, I realized, that kind of style can be influential. But a friend of mine who's a poet, he was starting to explore into colors. His name is Sherwin Bitsui. I liked how he did these squares and colors and how he kind of had this echoing moment of paint strokes that had colors that went from one line to the next. And I thought, let me just take a little bit of that and put it into this. And let me take a little bit of this cubism style and put it into here. And let me, start to stew these worldly artists that I'm learning all throughout time with of, early Mexican art that I was able to learn from Melanie Yazzie in art class or art history class.
And are you at university level? Is this at IAIA or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're immersed in a world of art. You've got studio time as well as art history classes.
Yes.
Where you're drawing from these older traditions, right?
Yeah, it was a very, very quick process, and it was the best. I mean, I could put everything into it, and it took a while. Once I graduated and got out of school, it was only an associate's degree that they offered. I went home and lived with my parents for a short while, and and then started painting and kept painting because I didn't have access to stone carving tools. I didn't have a lot of other things, but I had plenty of canvas.
Right. Well, so before you go on to the canvas, because one of the things that I think is so fabulous about IAIA, and I haven't toured tons of art schools in the country, but that school in particular has all these wonderful studios where you can really try your hand at lots of things. And I think it's much more encouraged there. Right. Whereas some of the other sort of more academic schools really kind of you sign up for a program and you go narrow and deep into that tradition. Whereas my experience of IAIA is that it's sort of open studios, and if you want to try your hand at metal or at ceramics or whatever, or combining all of them together, I mean, there's this really seems to be a lot of encouragement towards mixing of materials and exploring things.
Very much.
Did you find that? Yeah.
Yeah, I found that everywhere. I was certainly in the process of elimination is what led me to this moment. I mean, from knowing that I wasn't going to be a musician, it's okay. I'm still getting over it. But I mean, doing ceramics with Karita coffee, that was huge. I still love ceramics. I wouldn't mind going back to it eventually. Sculptural, forming is
there's got to be something
natural.
Really fabulous about having a sense of 3-dimension, even if you choose a 2-dimensional medium as the way you go forward, to have an understanding of how to manipulate materials and how you need to look at them from all different perspectives. Yeah. To then kind of go back to that more 2-dimensional. So when you went back into painting, you said that was because there weren't other studios around, but were you drawn to do that because it was calling to you? Or was it really like default because that was what was available?
Actually, no. It was a calling, but it was also I tried being a sculptor, and I actually still continued on to school and went to get my almost certified degree for a welder. I went to the UNM NMSU Grants branch that was kind of just a bit west of Laguna, and took all the classes to be a full-on welder. Learned MIG welding, arc welding, TIG welding. Made quite a few sculptures, but then I was still painting when I'd go home from school, and my closets were filling with cool paintings. And I was dating Pat Pruitt at the time, and he was doing body jewelry and started doing regular jewelry, and both of us were realizing, all our friends are in these art shows. Let's try that out. And his jewelry was a bit more refined, and he got into the Herd Show and the Santa Fe Indian Market, and I was just booth babe for the first year. The next year I got into being also included in the shows. And so, I think that's when I got started in 2008 was the first Santa Fe Indian Market inclusion. And also the Herd Show. That was my first art show.
So that seems to be the path. The Herd and SWAIA are the two sort of launch pads.
At least for my path, yeah. I mean, I did the state fair. I tried that, and I think I got a ribbon there. But that was right after art school, and I didn't know what I was doing. I think I made $400, which was how much I paid to get in the booth. So I broke even. And I was very sad, but then I was realizing, I mean, if I just had a higher price on my artwork, I would have made a profit. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to price my stuff.
For our younger listeners, say a little bit about what it was like to, how did you know that was going to be a career path? I mean, it's one thing to know that you love to do it and you love to be immersed in it, but a career path, and during your time at IAI, did they talk about the challenges, or was there a course offered on what a career path in the arts looks like?
There was a class that I took that was the business of art. But it doesn't tell you how to start. That's very individual, and that's where you kind of have to find it within yourself. You have to kind of have a bit of stumbled upon luck, high belief in yourself, and maybe some stored, cash from a side job, which, doing construction work and doing other things, and my parents, I was able to make it.
Well, you were so feminine. It's hard for me to imagine you with a hard hat and, Carhartts on, in the construction. What part of that did you engage in?
Oh, no, I didn't. I wore a hard hat once in a great while, but it was mostly big tool bags. And I was quite androgynous at that time. Really amazing arms. I felt kind of proud of those. I mean, wielding a hammer day in, day out, kind of gives you a slight bigger build. But, calloused hands, trophies on my palms were something that I was pretty proud of. But thanks to my brothers, they all showed me the ropes. They showed me how to carry a bucket properly, how not to hurt myself. And we did everything. I mean, we were on the reservation, so it was in Laguna Reservation. We did everything from below the ground to above the roof. We would remodel houses. We would, like here in New Mexico, we would build rock walls and then stucco them and use adobe on occasion, or we would do new remodel houses and put new ceilings on houses. I mean, you name it.
And mostly on the reservation or
mostly reservation, but there were still times when we'd go to Gallup or go to Albuquerque, and it was not easy. There was nothing easy about it.
Well, it's hot in this part of the world, to say the least. And so when you're working around the seasons, it's cold and it's hot.
Yeah, but I had something to prove. So
interesting.
I did it. And I did it because, my brothers would, make fun of me and say, what are you doing? You can't wuss out. And so because of that, it was that challenge of, oh yeah, I'll prove it to you. I can do it. And by that way, it actually made me a bit more competitive rather than being just a stand back kind of person.
Well, and obviously I can see the value of that when you're entering into a relatively competitive market like the arts. Right. I mean, on the one hand, here in Santa Fe, it seems like it's just a big love fest that all the artists support each other. But one has to really know themselves and be in their own game in order to put one foot in front of the other.
That's so true.
It can be very intimidating here with so many other artists to compete with, and how do you know that? How do you find your song and rise above the noise and all of that?
I like how you put that. Find your own song. That's true. I mean, you have to write your own lyrics. You have to know your own music, and that drum beat, that's yours. That's such a good reference. I like that.
Oh, good.
Working with my brothers is almost like working here in Santa Fe. There's a big, it's a reality that men run the markets. There's a lot of men that are artists, but because of the fact that women that, want to be artists might not have the opportunity because they choose to be a mother, and that takes more time, or they don't have the financial backing to be able to do it. And the drive sometimes is so difficult to be a female artist. I mean, you have to have a harder skin to be able to do it. And then to rise above over and over, even though if you don't win ribbons, you start to doubt yourself and you start to doubt what you're doing. Just to keep on digging deeper into whatever that creative spirit is inside, and to be able to come out with something over and over after being kicked down is not easy.
Well, your age group in the art world seems to be, women seem to be gaining traction.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're all in the same age group, but when I think of you and Cara and Rose Simpson, you guys are amazing. I mean, and not just amazing as women artists, that's some subcategory. I mean, you're front and center leading the pack. And as I walked through the Indian market this year, it's hard to know who's actually, because a lot of times it's the women who are sitting in the booth who might be representing, cousins' work or brothers' work or whoever's work. But I don't get a real feel that it's dominated by men. But say more about what it's like to be inside the market, and who's running the show, and do you really feel like as a woman that you're still in the minority in that context?
Yes, as a painter. I mean, there are some incredible women painters, yes, but in the forefront, sometimes they just don't get noticed, or sometimes they can't find the strength of a strong subject or style that falls into the right place and category. I mean, there's ceramic artists, Tammy Garcia and Anna Bortz-Medlock. They're amazing with their ceramics and bronzes, and a mix of others, but there's not a powerful group. I mean, I know Tony Abeda and Gorgeous George, what's his last name? George Alexander, and Del Kerfman, and I'm sure we could name a whole lot of male artists that are leading, but women artists, it's kind of like few. And so those that I know, I love them to death, and I band together with them as often as I can. But the hard part, moving to California now, I don't have the easy access anymore. So when I come back to these art shows, we're able to
sisterhood.
Yeah, we're able to grab each other's arms and look at each other's work. Thankfully, at the awards event on Friday night, I walked in at the perfect time when Deani Reynolds Whitehawk walks in, and she's this incredible abstract artist that started about the same time as myself. She's able to be a full-time artist and mother and doing museum shows, and just so encouraging. So I walk in and she says, "Hey, congratulations on the move. Way to go. I see your artwork on Facebook and the abstracts that you're doing." And she said, "What did you enter?" And I was like, somebody told me I got a ribbon, so I was going to walk to it. And so she walks with me and she sees my 2 large abstract pieces that I entered. And wow, she gave me all these incredible compliments and encouraging words that just filled me with joy, knowing that it was validated by a fellow abstract artist. It was amazing. It seemed like, I needed that. And I mean, other people say it, but a fellow artist doing the same thing and knowing the same struggle, it means a lot.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is so. And so how do you know enough about her journey to know did she start with figurative along the same kind of journey that you had? But I'm just curious because you got to that point where you departed from figurative and realism and all of that.
Partially. I still do that on the side. This abstract style has only been introduced to the market for the last couple of years, but I'm still slowly transitioning because of the collector crowd that know my work and that still want, a bit of a landscape, a bit of pottery design with some birds and animals. And I still love making that stuff. I mean, it's still a calling and easy to know how to make it because I know the steps and how to do it that I've done for many years. The hard part, as I was talking with other artists during this market, we all kind of had that same understanding that abstract is one of the harder disciplines to do. It's a discipline. It's very challenging to paint something that doesn't have a subject. It doesn't have a figure. It doesn't have a familiar step process to get from A to B and XYZs. I mean, it's just
right. And there's no external reference for you to say, well, yes, it looks like what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And so what's your process in approaching abstract?
I do it whenever I'm highly emotional or when I'm highly calm and when I'm meditating and when I'm not. It's this natural passion that seems to, it takes a bit of a build-up. These 2 pieces that I have at the show, I have a few others, but the main 2 that I had in the back of my booth, those 2 I approached in, October. I got the canvases and I stretched and built them. I had them in my studio. There in Santa Rosa, and I was looking at them thinking, oh my gosh, these are monstrous. They were like giants standing around me, so intimidating. And they sat there for a few weeks before I could even touch them. I mean, they looked so beautiful. They're so flat and perfect.
And you gessoed them. I mean, so you prepared them like you would any other canvas. So.
Yeah, everything was ready to go.
In the process of stretching them and gessoing them, does the conversation with the piece begin then, or
no?
You didn't know. So they just sat there staring you down.
Yeah. I mean, that was just kind of that. I see you, you see me. You're a blank canvas. That there is that moment. It's like a blank piece of paper for a writer, or a note that hasn't been struck yet for a musician. I mean, it's those moments that are just kind of that, what do I do here? What do we do here? It's not just a I anymore, it's a we, because, you know, you're creating something that is unknown, pulling from thin air and figuring out what color do you start with? What color, shade, tone, hue? How does that go? What's the next color?
Well, so let's if you can remember back to when you initiated these canvases, or one at a time. So you're staring in front of a blank canvas, and you know you talked about meditation or whatever. You go into the whatever your field is, whatever that thin air is that you just were referring to, and you say, okay, what color do I start with? Is that what you do? Is you'll just scumble a bunch of, you know, you'll put an underpainting for, like, what?
Yes.
Say about what your first step is.
Well,
is it pencil? Is it paint? Is it?
I get a huge brush and I get a big palette, and I kind of go with the feel. Like one of them, it was kind of this pinkish mauve mix of a slight bit of brown touch and then this ochre. And so all those colors I kind of squeeze onto the palette, and I have a huge bucket of water. And so just to break the ice, I just get a giant paintbrush and dip it. I go with just put it on the canvas, like get it wet, get it moving. And then the flow just kind of comes. I have to be in the right mood too. Like I have to have the right music to where I know it's probably an album that I usually put on. I don't know, who's the latest one that I really like?
When you say an album, are you talking about like a disc with a turntable, or are you album the way we now generically refer to album, like a body of music by an artist?
Yeah, just, you know, I mean, if
like a CD or
if I had my studio in Santa Fe, I would put on a record, and I would put on, let's see, maybe the Neutral Milk Hotel. Those guys have, the artist did very few albums, but the one he did was super powerful, the moon-faced one. I can't remember the name.
Well, we can look it up and I'll add it in the notes.
All right. So I'll put that one on, right? And I know the whole album all the way throughout. I know it'll keep me entertained. And so I start, and I get this wet brush, and then I start adding the colors, and then I watch how they flow. I move. It's almost like a dance that
I was going to say,
creating.
your gestures. I wanted to mention to our listeners that you're making these lovely large gestures. My next question was going to sounds like you're dancing with medium.
Yes, with the music, with the flow, with the behind being scared. I for lack of better terms, yeah, it's just breaking through being scared and trying to find your own inner courage and letting that kind of inner animal come out, to be fierce with it and just to put it on canvas and to just let it become. It's a passion that just is unhindered, and letting that go it's such a beautiful feeling. It's like that spirit that's always inside, but finally getting released and just going with what's natural, what's instinctual. And yeah.
Do you find that there's a moment where you sort of disappear and the whatever's coming through you just sort of takes over?
Yes, I feel that the paintbrush does what it's supposed to do. I'm just the muse.
And do you find that having a large canvas gives you more freedom and access than a small canvas, or how do you determine what size of canvas you're going to work on?
That's a good question. I know by inventory, what do I have in my studio and what do I want to work on? It's really, it's not really need, it's want. I mean, well, sometimes needs. Like I know if I have to make some payments, then I know to do medium to small, because those are easier for people to
find a
buy
place
and
for.
access. Yes. Yeah. But big ones are kind of that also need and want. I need them to go to a museum to continue my work and name and placement of being an artist, but also I want to make them because I want to explore that movement and that freedom that an artist can do.
Well, that's such an interesting dynamic you just described, is that like that tightrope that you have to walk between staying engaged professionally getting work to your galleries, getting work, the contract that you have with galleries to provide them with work so that they can then provide them to your collectors. And also just being, available for the muse to come through, which is, from what you're describing, the exuberance on your face and your gestures, it's a really positive experience for you to do that. So, it's something you seem to gladly put yourself in that position in service to the muse.
Exactly. It's a need. It's a life purpose that I'm, making sure to follow. All the steps in life that brought me to being the person I am now, it was with encouragement. It was with other people pushing me to get into that studio and get to work. It's constantly just a push to make and do what I'm supposed to do. And I in that process, it feels like I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want to let me down. So yeah, I just go at it. And
now that you've got you've said this separate studio, so you said that's made all the difference. So being able to leave your house and walk into this place that's pure intention, it's about that and nothing else but that. You don't have to worry about the kitchen and the dishes and the this and the that yakking at you.
So true.
And so it's so great. And congratulations, because you deserve to be in a place where you can commit full time to singing your song. And actually you did end up becoming a musician, if you want to talk about it in that way, because you're singing a song and you're singing it with paint.
I like that.
And do you have any sense of where you're heading with things, or how much of it is driven by you and what you see the need for in terms of what the galleries are asking for, what your clients collectors are asking for, and what you want to do and what the muse is directing? How do you juggle that?
That's a whole lot. I just make sure to, I guess I just stay true to myself. I don't make it for other people. I make it for me. And I think that's the most any artist can do. You can try and make things that are going to sell, and you can try and assume what people are going to like. But in the reality of it, if an artist, and to all other artists, if they just keep making something that fills them with joy, they're going to find the audience that's going to love it too. Because when you're talking about it, when you're sharing what you made, and when galleries can feel that energy off of it too, they know that everything is of that joy, of that encouragement, of that life path has been put into this canvas. It's gonna find its own audience, and thankfully, that's what I've been able to do throughout my career, is just to stay true to myself, which it is confusing to collectors, because I kind of shift quite a bit with mosaic style, with pottery design, with now abstract or gold leaf and silver leaf inclusion, or woodwork that has painting on it or something like that. But it's all exactly what I need to make, and it's a calling. It's if I'm not painting, I am screwed up. I am anxious, I'm nervous, I'm not sure of myself, I lose focus. But when I start painting and when I'm back into it and it's, continuous, I just feel like everything is right. Everything is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing.
One of the things that I've noticed from talking to all the artists on the series so far is that they all have a similar experience, that, once they've opened up the valve and they've let spirit or whatever whatever come through them, that if they don't keep that metabolic process in motion, it can be really destabilizing. And so they just need to kind of figure out a way to stay tapped in and just keep doing what they're doing. And I think it's fascinating that, those of us who are not artists probably are troubled by the same thing, but because we don't have a clear path of how we're supposed to be expressing ourselves, it gets really muddled up. And one of the reasons I'm doing this show is to help connect people who are not engaging in the arts on a daily basis and as a daily practice, or whatever the frequency of the practice is. Because it's this idea that we're these human beings, and the beingness has to keep coming through us, or we get cray-cray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With those words, exactly.
Yeah. So the people who know you personally, you said that sometimes your collectors get a little confused because you're throwing a lot of different curveballs at them. But I would imagine that anybody who looks at your body of work and then knows you will see there's no conflict whatsoever, or no discrepancies between that. And that sometimes you're in an abstract place and what you're expressing, and sometimes you're in a more figurative, for lack of a better word.
That's true. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's very true. I mean, sometimes I need to express a message, and the way to do it is by painting a female doing what she's doing. I have this painting that is a girl making a painting. And it was kind of this idea after going to the Middle East and seeing how cultures can cross and geometric designs can be looking like Southwest, they can be looking like Japanese, they can be looking like Moroccan, or of Emirates background, desert dwellers. I don't know. I mean, there are so many connections to tribal beginnings and those that have kept their religion throughout time. The design work, the ceramics, they're used in a similar process.
Well, they come from a collective unconscious, right? Or well, that's one way of talking about it. These signs and that's symbols.
True. Yeah.
I mean, because at the heart of it, those shapes, those symbols that have been carrying on through. So say a little bit about your time over there and what you learned as a Native American in another culture that has indigenous roots of a different flavor.
Yeah. So starting in 2017, I did a artist residency in Abu Dhabi for a month. And again, in 2019, I was invited back to do a residency in Saudi Arabia for a month. And then, let's see, later...
What was it like to be a woman over there? I mean, I have so many, a thousand questions. So you were a Native American. How were you received as a Native American? How were you received as a woman in these Arab countries?
Because of my host and them, most people that I was around knowing I was American, there are a lot of laws that keep us protected as tourists. And being brown skin and brown hair worked to my benefit, so I wasn't kind of a rare novelty, but also they were able, probably especially because of my personality and by being super respectful and being raised Native, I had something to offer. And they had the excitement of, oh, what's your tribal, background like? Because this is my tribal background. And we could swap stories. We could sit at a campfire and just be in that same zone. We could understand the drum beat and the songs and just know that it's the same. It's the same understanding. It's primal. It's the beginnings of like, yeah, thank God for fire. Thank God for water. Thank the spirits or whatever. We have that higher understanding of like, this is not just us. This is the energy of the earth that we're sharing, the beauty and the respect for that too. So in that same process, I mean, we have similar ceramics. We adorn them. We love our children. We love the family around us. We're walking in a desert, here we would wear shawls and covers and certain dress, and they do the same. So if you kind of take a step back, the silhouettes look the same. It was so interesting to find that out and to understand that after a while, that they had their ceramics and their desert women and us here as well that would walk with pottery on our heads or find a way to carry it to transfer water from one place to home. And that's everywhere. I mean, that was their beginnings too. That's all places. We have those beginnings, those beautiful silhouettes of women doing duties and adornment and decoration of our surrounding vessels that we find important, like a water jar. You know, you don't want a plain water jar. That's boring. You want to show your artistry and what you understand in symbols and put that onto a piece that stays with the family. And it becomes this piece that grandma had and that she made and that she loved. And it's going to continue. So it's the same all around.
What I just love that, you know, the concept of the appreciation of adorning a vessel or an object that you use every day, that gets infused with that gratitude and appreciation for everything that came before it, the grandparents and the elements and all these archetypal images that, you know, that are probably similar. You know, you have interpretations of mountains and rain and lightning and all of the elements that come through. And so when you're doing abstract, there's so many, I want to go 1,000 different directions right now. When you're doing the abstract work, do you feel like you're still expressing all those incredible things that you just described?
Yes, that's on purpose too. And I make sure that after I do, what would people, they like, if they saw Clifford Still's abstracts, he calls his layers of reality, his layers of paint, layers of reality, which is similar to any painting, right? He put it in the proper and a beautiful description. I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding these layers of reality, but also to make it mine in the background, I make sure to add very subtle pottery designs that are still iconic of my work. They still give homage to the beginning women that were walking the desert lands with those pottery that would be, you know, bringing this life-giving water to their family. It's still connected. It's still in my paintings, and it's purposefully placed into the abstract work of the canvas, just to keep that continuous song throughout.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So how do you talk to friends or potential clients or whatever that don't understand abstract? You know, it's such a typical response that some people have to, like, oh, my fourth grader could do that. So, and you said it's the hardest levels that you've gotten to is doing abstract, because there isn't anything representational to start with. So how help listeners who don't understand abstract or who feel intimidated by abstract, give them just like one little peek into what is it that's available?
I make sure to explain the discipline that it takes to be able to slap your hand and not make it subjective. That is almost a kung fu technique for any person that is a painter. I mean, we can draw happy faces all day, but can you make something that is nothing? That is a challenge, right? And if they can get there, I mean, then they can get it. But if they're going to an art show, most people that are in the crowd already have an understanding, an appreciation, and a curiosity. And the curiosity is key. That means that they have questions, they're seeking knowledge, and they want a little bit of education on this person. So I don't usually have to explain to too many people what's going on. And if they don't want to ask, then they just keep going. But if they take a moment and ask me, tell me a little bit about this, I will gladly explain the technique, the discipline, the difficulty, how each canvas has blood, sweat, and tears in them, and how long it took me to make something that has every single square inch purposeful paint strokes on it. Every part is on purpose. It's a full composition. And I think while I'm explaining that, they understand the beauty of what I'm trying to create.
That's got to be satisfying when you do have somebody who brings their curiosity to your booth or, you know, to a gallery opening show or something, and you get an opportunity to sort of complete your process by engaging with somebody who's, it's like the performer in a musical concert. You know, it's like almost not complete until you've have audience interaction.
Yeah, it is. And it is. I mean, all of those pieces fit together after the ear is ready to listen.
After the ear is ready to listen. That's so amazing. This has gone so fast. I was going to start our conversation by drawing a card from the deck, this animal spirit deck that I have. I have no idea where I got this deck. I collect tarot decks, and I like the idea of having you just shuffle and pick a card. And I'm so curious to see whether the cards have been listening and whether the card that you pick will have some sort of relevance to the conversation. Butterfly. So this is
That's
animal spirit cards, and I'm going to see what they say about the butterfly. It is, they're calling that an air. Obviously, that's an air card. So it's a creature of the sky. And this card signifies growing pains and transformation.
I love that.
So
that makes sense.
So would you say, where are you in the growing pains and transformation in terms of your move to California?
Oh, that's it. It is not easy to suddenly be an artist in a place where nobody knows you. It's like I went undercover. I mean, I can walk around Santa Fe and within an hour maybe somebody's like, hey, Marla, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, where you been? And, you know, or they know me by association. Oh, my friend, yesterday I was at Ojo Caliente, and within 10 minutes of walking around, a woman says, hey, are you Marla? Yeah, I'm Jeremy Fry's sister or cousin. And, you know, I know you and I met you through this person and that. And I thought, wow, that's great. But in California, you know, I am just another tourist. I'm just another person now living there. I don't consider myself a tourist, but there are a lot of tourists in the town where I'm at. So, you know, I'm slowly growing and slowly understanding the place, but it was not easy at first, you know, not having family and friends there. But
well, have you made community within the studio compound that you were describing?
Yes, I have.
And are they mostly locals, or are they from all over?
They're mostly locals from that place. Some retired tech people, some retired art teachers, some current artists that are around. And they're super encouraging. We have this mural project that we're going to be doing. They asked me to be the lead artist to run the project. But I'm not alone. I have a lot of people that are willing to be designated to do various tasks. But when we have a meeting, you know, they make sure they ask me, well, what do you think of that, Marla? How about this? And when should we start doing this, Marla? And I thought, this is so strange. I am the youngest in the group. I am running this mural project, yet I'm telling all these people what to do in a way and designating who does what. When I'm usually the one that's like, okay, I'll be the gopher. I'll go get this. I'll do this. I'll do that. But really stepping into your it's really amazing to feel
so
that.
that's perfect for the butterfly car.
I know card. I get to lead a huge community into a giant process of an amazing project that it's going to be huge. It's a 105-foot wall by 15 feet tall, and on the side of our building that all our studios are in. So it's in the art alley of Santa Rosa, in the historic downtown area.
Fantastic.
And so
when
exciting.
is it due to be complete?
We're hoping to get the full amount of work done by the beginning of November, because on November 15th, I believe, there's this event called the Sofa Parade, and south of A Street, which is what the area is called, they have this annual parade of people that put wheels under their sofas. They all dress up in lights and, you know, art puppetry, and there's fire dancers and there's people on stilts. It's just everybody designated this to be the fun time to do it.
Oh, that's so fun.
So it's just really, an art-centric place.
Yeah, and aren't you near Sebastopol and Tamales and those two places? Yeah,
yes.
Well, those are both pretty rich artist communities.
Very, very influential. Petaluma as well.
Petaluma, yeah.
And just maybe an hour north of Berkeley and Oakland and all those artists that are there too. I'm in a good place, I think.
I'll say. Yeah. Well, that's a perfect place to end it. We're exactly at an hour. And we'll end it there. Well, thanks for joining us today. Please like and follow us on artstorming.org, where you'll find a list of our shows, a transcript of this episode with links to the guest page, as well as our other projects. ArtStorming is brought to you and supported by ArtBridge and listeners like you. Look for us on your favorite podcast platforms.